Hello, everyone. My name is Abai, which means the Blue Nile River. In Ethiopia, this name is associated with prosperity and fullness of life. You see, I received this name because the day I was born, my grandmother's cow gave her an unusual abundance of milk. So it was a good start to an unusual journey. I'm going to show you a picture. This is Wollo in the northern part of Ethiopia. If you don't mind, I'm going to be your GPS, although I have a horrible sense of direction, but I think everyone knows how to get home. I'm hoping so. So the shortest way to get here from the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, for sure we just say Addis, is first you take a flight from Addis to the city of Lalibela. Then you drive for 2 hours. Then you hop on in this three-wheel vehicle for 15 to 20 minutes. Then finally you hike, walk, run, depending on how aggressively you want to take on this journey, for about 2 hours. If you're my grandmother, you do it barefoot, and I'm not kidding. Uh, so this is where I was born. I have two questions to ask all of you. When you think of Ethiopia, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Oh, I'm so pleased. But statistically, a lot of people think of poverty. And without knowing it, you are contributing to some of the problems we face. The second question that I have is, what is the first thing that comes to mind in addressing poverty? Many might say charity. And these things can be helpful in some circumstances, but making them the primary solution to fight long-term poverty is what, as African entrepreneurs, have a huge problem with. This ingrained bias and savior complex, however well-intentioned, is part of the ecosystem which can perpetuate poverty. But there is another way, a way of viewing developing nations that does not strip us of opportunity or agency, that offers us to believe that real investment is not just a handout, but real capital and market engagement into remarkable potential. So I have some stories to share with you to explain what I mean. So I was raised by my grandmother for the first 3 years of my life. Then I was placed in an orphanage in Addis. That was basically run by young teens, but that's a whole another story for another time. But what is the difference between me and any other girl born in the countryside, or between me and my biological mother, who's also from Wollo, and also on the picture frame that my grandmother's looking at fondly? So the divergent outcomes between us is what I'm here to share with you. For in fact, there is no major difference in potential, only a difference in circumstances. How is it that I'm not a domestic servant with few hopes and dreams, or with little or no education, like most girls born in my region? When I was 10 and a half years old, I was adopted by an American family. So I moved from the orphanage in Ethiopia to Van, Texas, with a population of about 2,000 people at the time. So you can imagine what a seamless transition that was. But I was given a safe home, nurturing, and education. And I was encouraged to excel and to aim high and to pursue my dreams, which led me to go to the George Washington University, where I studied economics. So when I was doing my research on the manufacturing industry, I learned, this was for my thesis, I learned an interesting fact about my country of birth. Ethiopia has the 8th largest livestock population in the world. And for a long time, we've been exporting rawhides, huge amount of rawhides, to Italy and other European countries, where these countries were producing value-added luxury products and marked them up 100-fold. At the time of my research, I couldn't find a single Ethiopian leather handbag label online. The whole concept of branding was so foreign. I remember my first assignment as a summer intern at Addis was to gather content for one of the largest shoe producers in the country at the time to create their very first website. This whole thing made me realize that Ethiopia has been getting the short end of the stick and missing most of the value addition to this valuable resource. For me, this was my calling. It was the challenge of closing this gap. My belief is this: African entrepreneurs have winning ideas, innovative and creative designs, and the passion to make a difference in their countries as well as globally. Why not? I knew that we must take advantage of our own resources and talented people to thrive in our own environment. So I moved back to Ethiopia to turn this belief into an investment and built my company, ZAF. So my brand wasn't just only created to define my sales or the development of the people I hire, but it was intended to be an example for every hopeful entrepreneur enterprise. It was about the dynamic that, when he said previously on charter course, there is a positive knock-on effect. The ripple that you initiate goes way beyond you and can activate a storehouse of awaiting potential. If you take this approach in believing in people and possibilities, you can stimulate imagination of many. And I am pleased to say that some of my hopes and goals are coming to pass. So I run a company out of Ethiopia that produces high-end leather goods and accessories, and we also partner with other African designers that share similar vision as us. But if you buy a bag from us, from a recently opened store in Washington, D.C., or online, or at our showroom in Addis, unlike most companies, our bag is produced by one person from start to finish. Every zipper, every stitch is sewn by an Ethiopian artisan that we've trained. And if you're lucky, you might also get a handwritten note from our artisan. But when I launched ZAF, I had a lifestyle photo shoot done where I hired professional models. This was for a lookbook. Some of you maybe know it as a catalog. But this somehow did not play well at my first trade show in New York, where people were questioning if a product of this quality were produced in Ethiopia. And the images we conveyed were similar to high-end Western brands. And it was confusing industry buyers who expected to see poor people making the bag on our lookbook cover, so people can buy it out of pity. And they had the expectation of paying a wholesale price akin to handicrafts, which barely even covered our production cost. This is the mindset I want to challenge. When expecting less from developing countries, we actually perpetuate poverty. Let me introduce you to Brahanu, whose life illustrates some of what I'm trying to convey. Brahanu has been working with us for a few years now. He started out as a guard, which is the absolute lowest unskilled job in Ethiopia. He was barely fluent in the country's official language, Amharic. Nevertheless, this young man was determined to learn how to design and create bags like the people he interacted with at our workshop. So we gave him the space to be creative in his spare time, of course, and we gave him leftover materials for him to use. A few weeks passed, he started showing us these amazing designs. And before we knew it, he was making a whole bag all by himself. Since then, he has joined us as a full-time artisan. So he was able to join a profession that stimulates his mind and increases his earning power. How many of us tend to box in people to their current position as opposed to seeing their future possibilities? It was a great lesson for me and my team. And because of him, two of our other guards are now motivated and inspired by his achievement and are taking his lead. So Brahanu had all the talent and the motivation to do absolutely anything. What we simply did was provide him the platform, opportunity, and believe in him to thrive in his own environment. This is his original design we now carry in our shop. So as you can see, once you liberate one person's imagination, you can liberate a host of people's imaginations around her or him. And we're watching that happen in Ethiopia now. Since I launched ZAF, Ethiopia has now over 100 leather handbag labels, all proudly made in Ethiopia. This occurred in part because we initiated a brand that Ethiopia can be associated with high-end fashion products and that can compete well in the global market. This is just one initiative in changing brand Ethiopia, displacing the usual stereotypes. The reality is that operating on the ground, especially in places with lots of bureaucracy, can be challenging. Under no condition do I mean to sugarcoat the tough reality of building a business or a brand in frontier markets. But you're doing yourself a disservice if you combine perceptions of difficult environment with paradigms stuck in limitations and stereotypes. You need to exercise a sober mindset and at the same time aggressively identify and pursue opportunities that are right there, close, but hidden to most of us because of mindsets and perceptions. Earlier, I asked what might be the difference between me and any other girl born in the countryside. Perhaps between me and my biological mother who couldn't afford to take care of me. My possibilities were brought to life by providential circumstances, and I had the opportunity to dream and imagine. My mother's potential might have been much greater than mine, but we'll never know. But I have a duty and a calling to look beyond, to see potential, and to act upon it. And so do you, whatever your background or story. With more than 60% of Africa's population being under the age of 25, that's all younger than me, it is vital that we see and capture the economic potential of the continent and its entrepreneurs. To be honest, we have no other viable option. No one will ever save Africa by charity alone. The entire premise in itself only leads to damning the continent. But we can partner with, inspire, co-create, mentor, and liberate the beautiful patchwork of human creativity and ambition across the great continent. The youth have winning ideas to be put into action in every sector, not just fashion. I just happen to be in the fashion industry. And they have the passion to make a difference in their countries and communities. Now, what is your call to action? It is a call to reflect, understand your images, associations, and paradigms, and align them to what is possible for others, what the future can be in developing world. And in every circumstance where there is opportunity waiting to be activated, think and speak of this to your friends and family, and let a new dialogue begin. Actual action can and will take shape from this critical starting point. Without it, countless individuals are robbed of their future, and we are all impoverished. I'll leave you with this. So liberate yourself in your imagination, and you'll be taking an essential step in liberating millions. Thank you.